back to Spells from the Shelf.
Welcome back. Nice. We're just going to jump right into a fun topic that we kind of want to try. I don't know about you guys out there, but if you've seen Sunshine for the Spotless Mind or Men in Black, if you could have your memory erased for a very specific memory, and that would be, of course, a book that you loved, what would it be so you could read it for the first time again?
Yeah, conceptually just thinking about what book imprinted on you, whether it's always kind of a perpetual touch point, right? It's like, oh, I want to go back and read that, or you think about it often. You know, every book kind of leaves that kind of branding on you. So that's where we came up with this idea. Great job, Amy, on this one. I kind of have two. We've got our All Souls trilogy here as one of mine, and then for me was also the Leigh Bardugo's Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom duology as one of my touch points.
Yeah, I really got to read that. Yes,
it's a lot of fun. It's only 2 books, so it's not like a crazy investment. You're a super fast reader, so she is like disturbingly fast.
I'm like, you know what? That's my college takeaway. Is that college taught me how to read fast. Actually, no, shout out to my mom because she taught me how to remove filler words. That's how I learned how to speed read. And now my brain just does it automatically, and I try to slow it down so that I can absorb more information. Because leaving off the, ofs, and ends actually can make a difference in like understanding what's happening in a sentence. So I do try to do it less.
Keep those prepositions and definite articles around.
Exactly. Discovery of Witches is a great trilogy. I agree. I quite enjoyed that one. My 2 that I would love to have my brain wiped of so I could read it for the first time again is When the Moon Hatched, which was just such a unique book. And I'm not going to give away what the trope is because it would be such a spoiler. And also it would spoil it for you if you read it.
I have not read it yet.
Yeah. But it was such a use of a trope that doesn't get used really ever that I've seen. And it just kind of stuck with me in the way that her characters developed, and the dragon element was just really emotional in a way that I just kind of didn't expect. Very different dragons from our last podcast that we talked about. Very different dragons from that, but still very interesting and unique. And then, of course, I feel like I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't say the War of Lost Hearts trilogy by Carissa Broadbent. I mean, fantastic trilogy. I loved it from start to finish. There's not a single miss to be had in that entire series. I would love to read it for the first time again because I thought it was somehow better than her other series.
And what was unique about what's the first book?
When the Moon Hatched?
When the Moon Hatched. What's unique about the dragons?
So the dragons kind of reminded me of more emotional and sensitive in a way.
Oh, interesting. Versus the typical like hard-nosed,
yeah,
all wisdom, omniscient kind of dragons.
Right. Like I found myself like more emotionally attached to them. Specifically, one of the characters, Dragon, which we get glimpses of their story together, almost kind of reminded me of like a relationship that a pet has with their human. It was kind of like that kind of relationship where it's like almost like your soul creature that just kind of gets you in like a really interesting way.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like a really cool connection. I found it interesting and like got me emotional. I actually cried in that book.
Oh man.
Yeah. I'm a big crybaby. I'm such a crybaby now. It's terrible. I cry in everything, man. It's not even funny.
Oh man. Like comedies too? Movies as well, or mostly books?
Pretty much, yeah. I'll cry in movies too. A lot more now. But books really do get it more. And I think it's because there's no escape from it. Because you're reading it and you don't know what's coming up next. So it kind of will catch me off guard. But if I'm watching like movies and TV shows will kind of
might be
change,
easier to predict.
They'll change the music. the scene will kind of shift and you'll know something's coming.
Yeah.
The one that I think about the most is How I Met Your Mother. I don't know if you saw it, but they did like a countdown episode where like a big character death happened.
Yes.
And like you knew something was happening because you kept seeing the countdown number.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, with reading, I feel like I cry the most because there's none of that. You don't know what's going to happen unless you see spoilers, of course.
Yeah.
And then you kind of know.
I'm trying to think about my experience there. I feel like so much like you get totally invested into the world. And like for me, I everybody reads for different reasons and their topics and themes are going to be different. Not everybody's, cream Twinkie is fantasy like ours here.
Yeah.
But there's always like this, departure from reality for me. Like I'm going in for escapism.
Yes. Reading to escape is that. Yeah, that's pretty much what I look for too.
Did you cry at all in Iron Flame or Fourth Wing?
Yeah.
Oh, and which parts?
Well, Liam.
Yeah, that was sad. Okay.
Liam both times. Liam at the end of Fourth Wing when he was like, "It's been my honor." That just tore me up. I didn't expect it to. I actually commend authors when they kill off a character.
Yeah. Hard
and
to do,
stick
right?
and stick with it. I actually commend them for it. Am I happy about it in the moment? No. But do I respect the art of it? Yeah.
Yeah.
To like get the bit. And then of course Iron Flame when he came, like when Violet was in like being trapped, that was a hard scene.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal.
That was pretty brutal.
And is there like brutality in these books?
Oh, yes.
You're like, there is some ruthless moments.
What I like about War of Lost Hearts is the female main character, Tisana. I think I'm saying that correctly. She's had the hardest life up until the point that we meet her. And it's still not easy because she's, having to now go to war for a good cause to free people from, entrapment. And with all of the stuff that she went through when we meet her character and what she goes through the book, the fact that she remains hopeful is amazing to me. I kind of like that. I think that's why I love this trilogy the most, is because she has so much hope in her character.
Mm.
And it's so much hope that it like is infectious in a way. And it like makes the male main character, Max, have hope that he thought he would never have again about things. And I thought that was fascinating because it was a interesting take on like a grumpy sunshine type of trope, but in the fantasy realm, which was kind of cool.
Fun.
Yeah. And I mean, who wouldn't want, to be possessed by a being and a sword? I mean, it's...
Oh, yeah. You mentioned that there was like a sentient sword as part of this story.
Yes. And I don't want to give away more than that because that would be a spoiler too, because the sword story also goes overarching throughout the entire book. I mean, it's really cool. It's very well done. Quick reads too, which I appreciate. I mean, as you can see, they get thicker.
Yes.
They get thicker as the book. When the Moon Hatched, you could fight somebody with that book. That thing is huge.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we get away from, either weapons or tools having a history or etymology. And I think that's a really fun piece to incorporate into a story.
It is.
If it's one of these famous weapons, it probably has a long lineage. It's like different people have wielded it. And it, the weapon or a tool of importance having a story is just as important as your characters, depending on how it's written in.
It creates like a nice little extra layer to it when you have something like that to follow, because it's like you have your main story, but then it's almost like the iceberg effect. Yeah. You only see this much of it, and then the book goes through and shows you like the rest of what's like hidden behind it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I personally love about books like that have like magical objects in them. Yeah. And I don't think it's used enough.
Yeah. I think it like with Six of Crows and the Crooked Kingdom, Kaz Brekker has his cane. He's obviously, there's a story behind how he has his cane, but it's also like a weapon. So a lot of people think of it as like oh, he's got a cane, he's got a handicap, but
Right.
he uses it as a deadly instrument. And he's just one of my favorite characters. So like conceptually, we're talking about this, Men in Black moment where if you were to get erased and how would it read, to read something from the beginning again, I found that just in our conversations, how I'm really drawn to ruthless characters. And he is one of the most ruthless characters that I've read. And, ruthless is just, to me, when he's acting and his motivations behind acting, the way he does in the book, the way Bardugo writes him, he's very much invested in Inej, which is the other character, but he gates his feelings off very much from her. So he's ruthless to himself, not just to other people. It's like this whole. Oh, it's not just one piece of like I'm ruthless towards everybody else, because I feel like in some ways that's easier, right? Like it's easier to see somebody like that, but he's just as ruthless and savage on himself, and I find that as like a very nice complex character.
Yes, that's the key. Like complex characters do make a story interesting. I'm sure we both can agree. Sometimes you just have some people call them popcorn books. I call them my fast food books, where I'm just there for fun.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm not thinking that deeply about them. And I think a lot of people confuse that to mean that it's a bad book. But I think it just depends on what you, the reader, are looking for at the time.
Yeah, that's right. Like people have different moods. They're allowed to like different types of books.
Right. Sometimes, and being a mood reader, I don't know if you're a mood reader, but like I am. And I can tell if my mood is not fitting what book I'm reading.
Yeah.
And that's when I'll have to step back and read something else.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I don't know if I've considered that as much. I think it's a great point. Like there's times where I'm reading a series and I'm like, oh, I'm just like not into it this evening. Like I gotta just shut the book and go to bed.
Yes. I just have to end this.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can get, you will look at the book differently if you're not in the right lens to read it.
Right frame of mind.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's true. I mean, that happens. And that's why, I don't know if you know this, but I think I lightly mentioned it. I chaotically read like multiple books at one time.
Oh yeah.
I have my morning books, my afternoon book on my lunch break, and then I have my before bed book. So I consistently read like 3 books at one time.
Oh man.
Which is psychotic.
or you just know you have your own literary circadian rhythm going on.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's like I'm never, because maybe I don't. And sometimes if I'm really vibing with a book, I just stay with that one for the whole day.
Yeah.
Until the end. But
for me, that signals usually if I'm picking up. So I'm usually more like the opposite, where I'll pick up a book and stick with it. At any point, if I'm giving up on the book and starting another book, it's because I'm probably not coming back to it. And I might revisit it a couple times, but usually it's my signal that I'm over it. This isn't.
You're done.
Yeah, I'm done with this book for now. Maybe I'll come back to it, but.
Soft DNFing. That's what we were talking about.
Soft DNF.
Soft DNFing.
And tell us what the DNF is, because I didn't know.
Yes.
She had to educate me on this.
I did. So DNF is do not finish or did not finish. And then you have a soft DNF where you will put the book down, like you said, and maybe try to come back to it a different time. And then a hard DNF, I would say, is where you just are, you're putting that book down and you're never coming back to it again. Like it is done. Yep. I find it hard to DNF. I only just started recently doing it last year because there's just too many books out there.
And your time becomes that's it. Your time becomes valuable. It's better spent reading a different story.
Right.
Like you recognize that quicker now.
Yes. I was like, why am I punishing myself with a book that just isn't my vibe? It's just not doing it for me. And since we're reading to escape, if I'm not escaping correctly, then I just feel like I'm in like the labyrinth with the
story you don't care about, you're not invested in.
That I'm just not invested in. Yeah. Not at all. But I kind of like the concept of wiping, because I feel like books are not just escapes, but they almost like trap our frame of mind in place to like when we first read it. And sometimes I kind of like want to go back to that version of me that first read it.
Yes.
And see like, wow, like that book like altered something in me. Because even though like reading is fun, sometimes it's like you learn something.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely like fields of study around that, right? Like narrative ethics, right? Pulling your ethics system. The more you read, the more you're going to know about ethics systems, complex systems. And I think to some degree that's true. I think it's not an excuse to kind of just retreat into books only.
Right.
But I do, your point is well heard around coming back to a previous part of yourself. It's like, oh, that was Paul or that was Amy like 10 years ago or 5 years ago. That was a different human.
Yeah, that was a whole different human. It's kind of crazy to think about, but also fun. I think it's interesting that the characters that I always find this fascinating, like the characters that you're drawn to. If it's almost like, because I'm always drawn to these characters who have strength and vulnerability at the same time.
Yes.
Because I feel like I grew up thinking I had this frame of mind where I only had to be strong. And I didn't let myself be, which is why I'm a big baby and I cry now all the time.
Okay. In touch with your feelings. I think anybody would say that that's an accomplishment.
Right. So I feel like that's the characters that I'm drawn to are ones that are kind of strong and edgy, but also vulnerable. And like the character that you're drawn to is like ruthless, but not like ruthless sounds so bad, but it's almost like, I would say more complex, layered.
Yeah, because there's different layers about how a character is going to view themselves or how a human views themselves, right? And I think with these ruthless characters, like we talked about Violet, her nickname was Violence, nicknamed by Zayden, her boyfriend, because of her choices. And then somebody like Kaz Brecker, but there are soft spots and vulnerabilities in these characters,
right?
Some more outsplayed than other, but. Yeah, just that ruthlessness I do find myself very drawn to, for whatever reason.
I would call it like the Onion characters, though, rather than ruthless. I would think of it more like you're peeling back an onion and you get this like exterior and it looks like one thing and then it's something else.
Yeah.
It's probably because complex characters.
Well, you don't want to make it one dimensional, right? It can't be ruthless only one way.
Right.
Like one dimensional gets boring very quickly.
I think it's just in-depth characters are more interesting to read. That's probably why you like them so. I mean, they are interesting to read. Who wouldn't? I mean, you think that you know them, and then all of a sudden, it's like the author's like, "Well, you don't really know them because I'm going to tell you about them. I'm going to educate you all on this character."
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. I do need to read that series, though.
Yeah, they're really fun. We were talking about this earlier. I think one of the reasons. Bardugo's books, one of my like Men in Black moments is because there was a long break that I had from reading, and the Shadow and Bone series just called out to me first, and like I picked it up out of nowhere after probably taking like a 5 to 6 year break from reading anything, like maybe like news articles or something else, but that was like the touch point for me. And while I tried to reread the Shadow and Bone series and it didn't catch as much, the Crooked Kingdom and the Six of Crows series just stuck with me more, and I've reread that since.
Yeah. Well, you had you said something interesting earlier today where you said it was almost like a book that chooses you in a sense, which I wonder, and I was thinking about that, when we find our way back to reading after not reading for a period of time, it is kind of cool and very Spells from the Shelf coded to have a book like Pick Us.
Yeah.
Like the book distribution system as opposed to the cat distribution system where it picks us.
Yeah. No, I think there's definitely something to that. I think there's, whether it's a random picture that you're ready to receive at the moment, or maybe you've like, whatever makes you pick it up. It could just be, Shadow and Bone. That seems alluring. Or
it does, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I totally get it. For me, it was, and I didn't pick it because, I mean, it is a series. I know I talked about the Fire and Flesh series, which I definitely have all those books as shelf trophies. That series just definitely got me back into reading, more specifically From Blood and Ash. But I didn't pick it, not because it's not great and I loved it, but almost because then I read this. Like, and I love that. It's almost like reading always is like one-upping itself. It's like, oh, okay, now my brain, and also my brain only has space for so much like things to think about. I don't know if I would want to erase the way that I feel about From Blood and Ash, because I think about it too much. I think about it way too much to erase it.
Is it the characters? Is it the world? Is it the all the things?
It's all the things. I think it's because I didn't expect it to be. It's cool because so it starts with From Blood and Ash, and you think it's going to be one thing, and I honestly thought it was just like a new take on a paranormal romance. And I know I told you I went down a deep rabbit hole of paranormal romances for a while there, and it turned into like this like epic fantasy kind of like take with romance. And before From Blood and Ash, I had only known one type of fantasy genre book, like very specifically like Lord of the Rings is the thing I always thought about.
Okay. Yep.
I didn't know that there was so many
other doors, other floors.
Yeah. I feel like coming back into reading now, I said this to somebody, coming back into reading now, even specifically the fantasy genre is so much better because there's so many different options now.
Yeah, I would agree with that, right? Like, I think we have a lot to thank Tolkien for, but it doesn't always have to be so serious, high, epic fantasy.
Right.
Even Game of Thrones style, but it can, you can have just as much world building without a ton of back history, a ton of backstory.
Right.
And I think sometimes people get a little lost in like some books we were talking about, you need like the glossary to kind of get through and introduce yourself into the world.
Right.
And sometimes that's fun, but that's not what every reader's looking for, you know?
Right. And I think I wouldn't want to, and I think that's why I wouldn't want to erase, even though I love that series. I do. I love it to this day. And I love her Fire and Flesh prequel series to it. I think it's smart. I think because I know so much about it, I would have to relearn everything about it. That would be a lot. Like, please don't erase any of my memory. I got the last book finally coming up. I need all the memory juice that I can possibly get.
Don't get rid of this foundational knowledge.
Please don't get rid of this foundation. Yeah. But yeah, I think that getting back into reading now, the fantasy. Oops. I'm going to start that over again.
Sound audio malfunction.
Yeah. Bloopers. Getting back into the genre now, I think is so much better than it was even like a decade ago. But shout out to the greats who kind of paved the way.
Paved the way for us and this whole podcast.
Yeah, paved the way for this. I mean, seriously. But, oh my goodness. Trying to think.
Outro?
Yeah. We could do an outro. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. All right.
I think I would need what should the outro be?
I know. What should the outro be?
Should be a synthesis of the story or just like what?
Ooh.
I feel like we don't rate it because we're just kind of talking.
Oh yeah, because we're just kind of talking about it. This could be one of those ones where we put a question in. Like, what would be a series that you guys wish that you could read for the first time again?
Put it in the comments section.
Yeah, put it in the comment section and why. Like a little fun interactive thing. That could be our outro.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm with it. Let's do it. All right.
Great.
So now that we have exhausted you guys on the series that we love and wish that we could read for the first time again, we felt it would be kind of cool to leave in the comment section what's a series that you wish you could read for the first time again.
Yeah, give us some ideas. Give us your favorites.
Yes.
We need to know.
Add to the ever-growing TBR list to be read, which I'm going to be reading as a ghost at this point. To finish mine, I'm going to be a ghost. But that will be kind of cool. But thanks for spending some time with us today, guys, and we'll catch you next time.
See you on the next episode of Spells from the Shelf.
Spells from the Shelf.